Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining this Youth Laborist webinar. My name is Florence, and I will be facilitating the session for you today. Today's webinar will be given by a set of panelists from different member firms of Youth Laborist. Today, we have the honor to have with us two lawyers from Ukraine and a lawyer from Germany who will be moderating this conversation. Before we kick off the session, I just would like to clarify a couple of points. The first one is if you have any questions throughout the session, you can use the Q&A tab to send your question, and the panelists will answer as many as they can. You can, of course, reach out to the panelists by email after the webinar. This session is recorded, and the slides and the recording will be available on the website after the webinar. I will now turn over to my colleague Burkhard from our German firm to begin the session. Burkhard,
Thanks. Thank
welcome.
you very much. Thanks for Youth Laborist for hosting, unfortunately, yet another session on the war in Ukraine. Today we're commemorating the 4th anniversary of an outrageous attack into one of our neighbor countries. And even though this is a super sad occasion, I'm super happy to have our two speakers from the Ukraine alive and well, and hopefully also well-being, back on stage on our anniversary talks. And Oksana and Volodymyr, thanks for making this possible, taking the time, and we all pray that not only this session will be undisturbed, but your life of you and your families will be as undisturbed as possible under these circumstances. A terrible attack took place into one of our neighbor countries, and we want to send a signal to the community of all friends and families in Youth Laborist of our standing behind your brave fight for your country's survival and victory. I remember we had the first session together in Kiev at the time. I always promised that I will be among the first ones to come back. And so this promise is still standing. And I think it's time that we revisit some parts of, your life and how's your life going on. But at the same time, we always wanted to give this a forward-looking statement, a forward-looking view. We all pray for peace, peace at honorable conditions. And under these conditions, I think Ukraine will be one of the most interesting places in Europe and maybe in the world, even for investments. And also, I think it's highly likely that a membership to the European Union will be on the table as soon as we can finally speak about these things. And this is why we want to have this forward-looking view, and we want to get your view and your perspective about this in particular. This will not be a session where I will be talking any more minutes, but I will immediately hand over to our Ukraine colleagues. We will start with Oksana. Oksana was very kind in showing me around in Kiev when I first visited you on the first anniversary, and I will never forget this. And it's one of the most beautiful cities that I've seen in my life. Yeah, and I'm sure the same applies to your country.
Despite it's February, when it's the most weather.
True, true. It was very cold. But not to commemorate this any longer, but Oksana, we really want to see or look forward. Maybe quickly introducing Oksana as one of the partners in our membership firm in the Ukraine. And maybe in a minute you will talk a little bit about just the size of your firm and what you're currently doing, and Volodymyr as well as a partner. And I've been to your offices. This is a very nice place in the middle of Kiev. And maybe in the beginning, you help us talk a little bit about your everyday life as practicing practitioners in the Ukraine these days, over the last years, and also over this very tough winter that you all experienced. That would be very helpful. I think it's a nice start, Oksana, if you want to give it a go. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Burkhard. Thank you, Flo, for this opportunity to talk to people, and in this very sad day on the fourth unfortunate year of full-scale invasion of Russia in Ukraine. But just a few words, as maybe some of one know me. My name is Anna Wojnarowska. I'm a partner in Vasily Kisiel & Partners, Ukrainian law firm, a member Ius Laboris for Ukraine. I'm naturally doing labor law. And yes, Burkhard, we're still in the same office in the very heart of Kyiv city near the Opera House. And maybe someone remember that in, I guess, 2019, it was Ius Laboris gathering of one of the Ius Laboris universities was organized here in Kyiv, and a lot of people came, and I hope really enjoyed my country and my beloved city. My partner Volodymyr, he's head of corporate M&A practice in my law firm, so he is here to talk more from the perspective of investments, economy, money, future industries, and naturally he is more involved in these particular areas than particularly me. So 4 years ago, actually, as we know, the war in Ukraine started in 2014, being more than 12 years already. But still, what we are still in the middle of this nightmare. And when I think when I wake up 4 years ago and somebody could tell me that this will last for at least 4 years, I couldn't believe that, because it was too horrible to be true. But unfortunately, we are in the we now are where we are, and that is very, I would say, make us less optimistic about the civilization and the future of the world. But speaking about our everyday life, I would not say that it just changed much since, for example, last year. We call it war and life balance, as I already told you. It's no more work and life balance. It's now it's war and life balance. But for us, it's just a war and life balance, trying that we are trying to work, and afterwards we are trying to help the army and donate. But for people who are in the army, it's just war. They work 24/7 to fight and to protect our country. Speaking from my perspective, I mean, my family members, my younger brother, he is in the army for a year and a half. My ex-husband is in the army for now more than half a year. Probably some of you already know that one of my lawyers, his name was Ilya Pidgainy. He was a part of my data protection team. He went to the army as a volunteer just the very first day of the war, and he was killed in the summer last year. So what I'm trying to say that there is that now, when we are the 4th anniversary of the war, everybody is affected by the war. You cannot find any single family or a person who didn't lost somebody or is not involved just in this terrible war. And this, of course, reflects us, because those people who are fighting in the army, so it's just war for them. They are like busy with that. It's not just about balance. There is no balance when you're at the war. Speaking about them, you know how the life changed. Maybe this I would say this winter was, or is still, despite the spring is coming, but and still is one of the, I think, the hardest winter during the wartime, because of this terrible terrible attacks to the energy system of Ukraine. And so we had electricity cuts, had no heating in the apartments. It was +5 degrees and no water, no. And there were days when we had the electricity during 2 hours only. There were days where we had no electricity at all. And of course, this influenced the your working schedule and your business schedule dramatically. But in from the standpoint of working of the state authorities, I would say that now we can observe, for example, in the court system, that there are like a big queues, that some documents and decisions of the court are uploaded in the electronic digital court system more slowly, that we have more postponements of the court sessions because of no electricity and electricity cuts. So this makes all the system, I would say, work slower, but the system, the state system, didn't collapse. And I think that is the most important thing, that we are standing. We are literally surviving and standing and coping with all that stuff and working and live our lives, because this is, I think, one of the possible demonstrations of our resistance to the war and to the enemy. I would just give the word to Volodymyr, just to add a few words from his perspective.
Well, we didn't agree with Oksana, but I would be a more optimistic guy on our webinar, because of course we all suffer, but I think that it's terrible to say, but we get used to it, and actually we had no choice. So all that we can is to continue our living, to continue our working, to continue helping our clients to solve their issues. Because fortunately, as Oksana correctly said, maybe some things became a bit slower for Ukrainian speed, because in comparison with European speed, we more or less make things fast. But indeed, we suffer some issues. It's real situation. Still, everything is working. You see, even you have concerts and theaters in Kiev, and you can visit some cultural events. What is true is that indeed war-life balance is very important thing, and you cannot imagine any cultural event in Ukraine without some attention and real attention to the war, without some auctions, without some biddings and attracting donations. That's something that became our absolutely obvious thing. So frankly speaking, I hope that we won't meet next year, or at least we will meet, but with some other background, and it won't be devoted to 5th anniversary of the war. But it's something which doesn't depend on Ukraine. Everything which depends on Ukraine, everything is done. And I use this opportunity to thank our partners and European partners who support Ukraine. It's incredibly impossible, and I'm afraid the situation would be much worse than we have now without this our partners' aid. I will speak a bit later about some practical aspects of this support. But as a welcome short elevator pitch, I think that I will put a stop here. And
Great. To tell us a little bit about how you uphold the system of your law firm. I mean, we can almost not imagine running our business, and whether you are in-house or in a firm these days, without electricity. I mean, this is inconceivable. So are you turning more into like paperwork? Is it more like submitting papers
No,
in, or is still you just wait until the
fortunately, no.
electricity is back on and then you send whatever needs to be sent? Is that the way you handle it?
We have these outages indeed, but fortunately, we used to find some solution, and in our business center there are generators, and we have just
Okay.
some minutes to shift from the centralized supply to generators, and then when we have centralized electricity supply back, they turn again. So
Super.
it's a bit discomfortable, but
But that
frankly,
means like if
it's not
clients contact
terrible.
you or you're in the middle of a conversation with a client, it's just like as a quick break and then you continue and you can work as
Yeah,
lawyers almost as
when we have
normal.
meeting
Yeah.
in the evening, sometimes we can just very dramatical theatrical effect when
Candles.
yeah, when suddenly there is no light. And
Tell us a
it's
little
very
bit just,
important to go on speaking,
yeah, yeah. But tell us a little
in
bit
that
just
moment.
like what kind of cases are you handling? Of course, domestically, I understand business is just like there's M&A business, there's litigation business, there's employment law business. But is there any like special business or special situation that particularly happen in your practice these days, or is it more or less business as usual from a law firm's perspective?
Oksana, would you reply?
It's more business as usual. I would say that what changed is we had a dramatic changes in Ukrainian labor
Yes.
legislation because of the war. Of course, it was directed to some restrictions. For example, we are not permitted to have any strikes now. We and there are also like some more pressure on the employees, less, I would say their rights and benefits are more guaranteed now because of the war. But I think that this just changed a little bit issues we are dealing in. We've got some new piece of work, for example, connected with the military conscription reservations, military HR databases. This is absolutely new actually for us, and because we've got a new piece of again legislation in this particular area as well. But I would not say that this just dramatically changed our business. So we still consulting the clients, we still go to court, we're still providing legal memos. And what I would say changed is that we became more and more digital as a country, and that's why now we can do almost everything digitally online. We are required now to submit the procedural documents online. We can do video sessions at the court rooms. So now we can request and get any document, certificate, whatever, from your cell phone online using the app, the state app called Dia, which is translated like action, could be translated into English like action. And now you can even get married online very quickly within one day. And
Yes.
Uh,
That is,
well as divorced, of course, if you get divorced if you have no children. But so almost everything became very quick and and very rapidly became digital, I think. And this is something which I would say positive, because this is the way you have to adapt to the changed circumstances and to the changed world around you. And I would say that we did it, that we succeeded, that Ukrainians demonstrate their flexibility and quick reaction to a new reality. They adapted, as Volodymyr said. So we have all this survival circumstances. Ukrainians still have the possibility to adapt to that and to react and to try to normalize the life, despite sometimes this is really not easy. Volodymyr?
Yeah, I agree.
No, very good. I think what do we want to move on a little bit on one of the hard fact topics that you would want to cover? I
Yeah,
think,
we
we
can.
want to give a perspective on more like where do we see the future of investments and so on in the Ukraine. I'm really happy to follow up with this.
You mean we moving from establishing and maintaining rule of law to business and foreign investment landscape, right?
Whatever you would like to do first, yeah.
Oksana, would
Actually, I've briefly mentioned what is about the rule of law. I've mentioned
Super.
what changes happen in this particular sphere from my point of view. So
No, super.
I think that it's now your turn because
Okay,
Wonderful.
so
no sites
I
and
will have some questions to you later. I keep them for a moment and I let Volodymyr do some presentation
okay,
first.
so
Yeah.
we are moving to investment landscape.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Okay, while we were preparing to audience joining our webinar, Burkhard asked me how was our night before the webinar, and you know what the most important for the lawyers? Preparation. That's why I didn't know that Burkhard would ask me that question, but I have a slide to answer this question.
Very good.
And that's the first slide just for you to understand our reality. We get used to this reality, as I mentioned, and. What is this map? This map is a map which Ukrainians usually receive in different media and see in different channels. This is trajectories and lines how drones and missiles flew to their targets. So you can see their trajectories on these yellow and red lines. And by the way, if you wonder what territory is under Russian occupation, you can see on the right side of this map, this lineary gray territory is under Russian temporary occupation. As you can see, it's not crucial. I mean, it's a big part, around 18 to 20%, but the absolute majority of Ukrainian territory still under Ukrainian control. I well remember our last year webinar, and this 2025 figures is just night before our webinar. And that was interesting for me, to compare in time how it was February in 2025, and then you can see we were attacked by 185 Shaheds. This night was quiet. I mean, from Monday to Tuesday, but we have a quite noisy weekend, and you can see the section 2026, and you see that almost 300 drones and 50 missiles were sent to Ukraine. But what is really it's terrible figures, and maybe you are impressed by these figures, but what is more impressive, when we look a bit below and you see the percentage, how many drones and missiles were shut down and suspended by our Ukrainian forces. And you can see that absolute majority, in some time 4 out of 4 or 17 out of 18 missiles were shut down. That's why Ukrainians ask for all these missiles, for all these Patriot missiles and other European machinery. It's absolutely important things, because if we had known these missiles, anti-drones and anti-missile missiles, the damages would be much more high and much more terrible. So we really appreciate our partners' support, because it's actually helps to save lives and to save our civil infrastructure. The next slide is that Ukraine not only suffer, Ukraine really strikes back and quite successful. What is the important difference that Russia attacks civil infrastructure and civil houses and hospitals, while Ukraine attacks army objects. And we have a very good event in 21st of February. Ukraine hit the Russian ballistic armory when they actually produced these missiles, which they then use to attack Ukraine. And Ukraine used its own missile, so-called Flamingo. Why Flamingo? Because it is pink. And this was a deep, so-called deep strike. You see 1,400 meters in very, very deep territory of Russia. That's from the defense perspective, it's very good success of Ukrainian rocket forces. So we also fight back and quite successfully. Now closer to foreign investment and economy integration in Ukraine. Here is the slide with two main, helicopter views, at least how I can see. If we speak about 2026, strategic importance of Ukraine shifted from a humanitarian and security focus. However, it's still also very important. But now we can already work on investable frontier, characterized by deep regulatory reforms, unprecedented international financial backing, and the emergence of high growth sector. We will speak a bit later about what are these sectors. But now we see that we not only suffer, we get used to this attack, and we try to develop in economic and business perspective in particular, because it's important to have taxes, to employ people, and to continue economic life of the big European country, which Ukraine is. The Ukrainian investment landscape is defined by a paradox of high security risk on one hand and high institutional resilience on another hand, which Oksana, by the way, mentioned on the very beginning. That's for us, it's the only way. And the government successfully established the macroeconomic environment through combination of stringent fiscal discipline, substantial external support, and rapid pivot towards European standards. These slides about main figures, main measures, and you can see that in 2025, Ministry of Economy reported that GDP growth reached 2.2% year after year, comparing with previous year. For 2026-2028, Ukraine is projected to receive approximately $158 billion. You can see their structure, and very big part of this financial aid is European aid and support of separate European countries and the European Union in general, and believe it's very important, and for Ukrainians it's absolutely typical to thank to some countries and to European communities for this support, because of course without this financing it would be very, very hard. What is good that International Monetary Fund continues to support Ukraine, and there is a program not so impressive in figures. It's approximately $8 billion, but it's very important signal for international business, for other partners, that IMF participate in Ukraine, believe in Ukraine, and support Ukraine, and that has very, very wide collateral effect on the activity of Ukrainian, and not only Ukrainian business, but located in Ukraine. And what is also important, that many reforms work smoothly if they are provided in this IMF program. So it's now very important part to build consensus between Ukrainian government, international partners, and Ukrainian business, so that reforms really help Ukrainian economy and not disrupt it.
Can you give an indication to what extent these funds will be used for rebuilding, like infrastructure, or is it completely different areas of investment? I mean, I'm talking about the non-military part.
Well, I don't know the specific structure, but
Yeah.
we can see in this third paragraph
Yes.
that 90 billion from European Union and 30 billion dedicated to
Dedicated to the
macro-financial
macro-financing.
assistance
Exactly. Yeah.
and 60 to defense industrial
Yeah.
capacity.
And can you see, like, when you, like, from local political discussions, that there's specific projects that people, is it rebuilding of bridges and railways and these kind of things, or energy system?
I will
Yeah.
mention it a bit
Okay, super.
later.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what is, from my perspective, it's an important track for Ukraine. It's Ukraine's status of European Union candidate country and all related processes to it. And now, government conducts a comprehensive review of Ukrainian legislation so that to adapt it and adjust to European acquis. And our firm is involved in this work. For instance, there is now a big work on company and corporate legislation. And I was invited to the official group. Only 3 lawyers for the whole country were included. And actually, we elaborate on the necessary changes with the regulatory and ministries of Ukraine so that Ukrainian corporate framework would be aligned with the European one. Another big, and that's what is mentioned, what is important to mention, that these institutional reforms create much work for lawyers and for our firm in particular, because many programs devoted on different changes and institutional changes and to make things work better. And of course, these processes require involvement of lawyers, and professional and reputable firms have this additional market for their service in addition to help to private clients. Another big topic is the public-private partnerships, and this sphere is being developed. And now we have a remarkable, very big project about concession of the biggest port in Odessa region, so-called Chernomorsk port. And right now the tender is in place, and by March some bidding could be applied. And we believe that this concession would give good economic boost to Odessa region and to our sea logistics and to Ukraine generally. And for the last but not least trend is the foreign direct investment management. Now we have a screening legislation elaborated on this for this topic. Previously, we have not specific legislation for this investment screening, but now the government decided to regulate so that countries which are participating in this invasion in Ukraine would not allow the access to some strategic businesses. That's maybe that's all for this helicopter
I think,
view of
for
investment.
going
But
forward, the clients and us, so the membership firms will be particularly interested in the future to learn a lot about, what are potential projects where we can, like.
yeah, I have the second part on industries,
Yeah.
but now I will back mic to Oksana, and maybe
On
she
the
will say
EU
a word
membership basis.
about
Wonderful.
EU membership. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Volodymyr.
Add some words about EU membership. So just to recall, we've got a candidate status in 2022 in summer, and since summer last year, since summer 2024, we've been granted like access to negotiation track, and now we are in the process of, and we hope to get it approved, that 3 clusters would be 3 of 6 clusters covering 3 main points. It's fundamentals like main administration, rule of law, anti-corruption, public administration, main institutions, internal and external relationship will be opened. So it is expected that the decision to open this 3 negotiation cluster is expected in early 2026. At least we've had a lot of hints on that, and the significant like procedural movement of Ukraine to that to that area was already confirmed. What in terms of timeline perspectives, I would say that of course Ukraine, what we have in our mass media and in the statements of the president of Ukraine and state officials, is that Ukraine membership, our target is Ukrainian membership by 2027. But more realistic, I would say more realistic forecast would be 2028, 2030 earliest. Because of course the Ukraine is a process of consisting of Ukrainian law with European Union legislation and performing and completing, sometimes starting and completing major reforms. But what they called for Ukraine now, we are now in the accelerated model, or how they called it, progressive membership model. So we try to do it faster and I hope better. We still have a lot of obstacles, both internal and external. External, for example, the major obstacle is a political blockage by some EU member states. For example, as you probably know, Hungary has repeatedly voted negatively and vetoed progress in opening this 3 clusters negotiations about EU membership of Ukraine. Having different, sometimes ridiculous requests, and of course everybody understands that Orbán is the best friend of Putin and trying to make as many obstacles to Ukraine as he can, but still we have like try to elaborate plan B, which are like this accelerated or progressive integration model instead of maybe full and quick EU membership. We have a lot of internal obstacles. The biggest, I would say that this is for the moment almost epic fail of anti-corruption and institutional reform areas. And this is a big challenge itself, being a big country, a big war with corrupted institutions. But it also has another negative impact, like also like making the timeline of EU membership longer and putting on question the access to planned EU funding.
Can you explain to me a little bit, because I remember from the very first conversations, we had this issue, and I would be more concerned if there were no corruption scandals, because then everything would be probably around and under the ceiling and under the carpet. So isn't the fact that you have these very eruptive moments in your political landscape from time to time a rather positive sign that things are being covered up and are being looked into. I personally see this more positive. Do you feel like there's an improvement on that end? I have a more like of a positive view
Yes,
on this. Yeah.
my personal observations that it much has been done and a lot of improvement really happened, but I'm afraid this is not enough. This is
Mhm.
absolutely not enough to be so in this particular area. I think that we should be the fastest to change to the positive ways. We've changed a lot. That's true. And what is another positive moment that everything is public, everything is in media. You have
Exactly.
you have a lot of other media people would make every mistake made by these politicians and publicly available and next day everybody knows about that. And this is very positive. And maybe this is too much on our news, but this not necessarily may mean that this is more corruption in Ukraine. It's more known now. It's more well
That's
known.
what I wanted to say. I see this more like, oops, at least it's being covered up. It's normal. I mean, if you look at these tremendous amount of money that are being coming to your country in a wartime situation where your neighbor, your enemy in that case, um, is of course very offensively trying to influence also your political arena. That's quite natural. I mean, we see the same thing within the European Union, as you know, and unfortunately today, the one member of the European Union is still blocking funds that should be going to the Ukraine, and it is very obvious that this has a corruptional background. So we can see this, we can sense this, and I see that there's a constant fight within your legal system to improve the situation. And I just wanted to confirm to you that from an outside view, even if there's a lot of reporting about it, it can be seen rather positively because at least there is some reporting about it and it's being discussed and it's being uncovered. Yeah. That's how I feel about it. Yeah. I see a thumb up with Volodymyr. Okay.
Yeah, pleasure to hear that you very, rationally treat this media because sometime indeed there could be bias that if too many media about this, that means that is absolutely terrible things. I think that this transparency and this publicity is the first step to healing.
And you can see this even in my country where we're pumping a lot of money into the military sector, that to make this process transparent, even though it needs to be from time to time very secret, that gives only like a glimpse of an idea of what it means for your political system to handle incoming funds of this massive amount that have been coming into your country over the last 4 years, right? So I think on that point, I remember discussions with you and your team. It's an important point. We cannot deny it for membership in the European Union, but I think there is other candidates down the road to membership of the European Union where I'd be more concerned about the handling of corruption because you don't hear anything, but you know it's happening anyway. So don't put your light too much under the chair in this case. Yeah. Is there any other obstacles? One thing that always struck me is if you travel to the Ukraine these days, even the only way to get to the Ukraine mainly is by train. Yeah, I mean, you can take a car, but we can still not take a flight. But we have to change tracks. And I always thought, like, isn't that the first thing I would do if I were the Ukraine to change all the rail tracks to make sure that you cannot approach it by rail from the east anymore, and have a tracking system that is immediately linked to the tracking system in the European Union. Is there discussion about this? I was really amazed. I remember waiting for 2 hours until the train finally leaves the station because we had to jump from one train to the other. So is that something that's being under discussion, or is it too difficult to handle because it's such a huge network?
I can say that it's been under discussion for 10 years for sure,
All right.
maybe even
Okay.
longer, and it's really important for Ukraine and for agriculture and commodity producers who export their production to, in particular in Europe. But Ukraine is a huge country. It's around
Yes.
600,000 kilometers and railways throughout the whole country. So it means that we cannot change tracks in some specific parcels. We need to change the whole railway station. It's
It's a big
cosmic
challenge. Yeah, maybe there will be a
challenge.
fast track
Yeah.
train one day from
But
Warsaw
there
to
is a
Kiev or
project
something like
to
that.
reach Lviv from Europe from Lviv.
Yeah,
We hope that it could be launched in some nearest perspectives. But of course, it's the clear idea, and it would be great to travel to Europe without shifting these tracks, and hope someday it would be real.
It
and
would
another
again
question is like
another.
on. Excuse me, Oksana. Yeah, please. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I think that just a few words that if we are able to do that, it would be a vivid example that we are not connected with Russia anymore in whatsoever matter, because we even the railways are in a European style.
Exactly. That's what I thought when I took the train. And the other question is on airports. I remember, like, the first thing you need once there's peace, or whatever form of peace it will be, yeah, will be for investors, for business people to come in, fly out within, short term. How is the status these days of the airports, and would it be easy to use these airports again, or have they been destroyed? Just like give us an idea on the air traffic situation, the potential air traffic situation.
Actually, I suppose that this is a military secret, but
Okay,
I
good.
haven't heard about
Okay,
that they destroyed the airports.
yeah,
However, not necessarily this could be true because, as you may presume, there are much more we don't know, which is uncovered because of the military secrecy. But they ruined totally one of the like small airports in Kiev, which is called Zhuliane, but it covered mostly local flights and some discounts flights. The big airport near Kiev, to best of my knowledge, but maybe I couldn't exclude it. I don't know everything. It's well as Lviv airport. So I don't think that it would take much time to reopen the flights
no,
for
very good.
again. Very close.
Volodymyr, on other economic sectors that may be interesting from our client's perspective in the nearer future, I think you prepared a few
Yeah,
more
I have a
slides.
few
Exactly.
slides.
Yeah.
I cannot cover everything because
But
we
just
have
run
quite
through
quite
two or three of
developed
them. Yeah, that
economy,
would be fine. Yeah.
but a few
Super.
sectors which are now very, very hot. First to start, it's Ukrainian IT, because IT sector actually proved that Ukraine's most resilient industry during this invasion, and IT sectors works well. And fresh figures for 2026, we have a special regime, legal regime for IT sector, DSCT, and our firm was participated in development of this regime. Oksana Vynarovskaya in particular helped to design the framework for employment and for attracting personnel by these IT companies. And so this legal regime already works, and it plays as a benchmark for other sectors. And for this DSCT, in 2026, you can see 3,700 residence companies, almost 4,000, and more than 143,000 specialists work in companies which are residents of this DSCT. And by now, already 9 tech unicorns are residents of DSCT. And as I said, as a benchmark, this ecosystem becomes wider, and already three new regimes will be launched. It's DSCT Invest, aimed to help investment in tech businesses and IT businesses. DSCT R&D, and Robolab as the physical engineering infrastructure to support hardware startups from prototyping to mass production. So now very much importance to this IT sector and DSCT ecosystem. Another sector is energy restoration and decarbonization. To name a few, it's not everything, but just important remarks. Hydroelectric restoration. Major projects funded by EBRD are underway to restore capacity at the Dnipro. There is a middle Dnipro hydroelectric station, and we hope that this project would be renovated now. Hot topic is critical minerals. Probably you've heard about our treaty with America, and there is a US-Ukraine Reconstruction Investment Fund. And actually, it began to work and deliberate, find out these investment opportunities in critical minerals like lithium, titanium, etc. Actually, the goal is to integrate Ukraine into Western high-tech supply chains. And renewables, energy is a big issue for Ukraine, and transition into smart systems and large-scale solar facilities. By the way, there is an example: 250 megawatts in Chernivtsi solar project. Now it's one of remarkable project for the year. Another big and hot sphere is defense tech. It's really booming now, and it's a problem even for law firms because they actively, headhunting our personnel. But that's the sphere and that's the industry which is really now booming. I will show some photo on the next slide. You can see that since 2022, Ukraine defense industry complex increased its production capacity 50-fold to 50 billions for 4 years. That's unfortunate side effect for our war which Ukraine suffer. This sector has moved beyond immediate battlefield needs to a stage of industrial scaling, and major international defense firms like Rheinmetall and Biosystem have already established joint ventures. And many countries are interested in getting Ukrainian teams to establish defense tech business in European countries, but with Ukrainian brains, with Ukrainian entrepreneurs and engineers to develop this defense tech production. And as I said, also we are awaiting for the launch of Defense City Special Regime, which would be close to DSCT utilized by IT sector, but it's aimed to provide also comfort for defense tech businesses. That's the photo which I made by myself. That's last September. And if you remember last year, I also showed photos from Defense Tech exhibition, which I participated. And why showing this photo? For comparison for you. In this last September 2028, this Defense Tech Volley was held in Lviv Arena in the stadium. It was absolutely unbelievable number of people. You can see more than 5,000 participants. While a year ago, in 2024, it was 1,300 participants. And it was impressive even for 2024. You can imagine how the scale which we had in the last year in Lviv, 50 countries, 300 international investors. You can see in 2024 there was 100. I specifically compare this figure. So this sector is booming, and we think that Ukraine already is a quite serious player on this market, and it will continue to grow. And actually, Ukraine can be a solution for security issues, not only for Ukraine, but for Europe and the whole civilized world. Another area is industrial parks. There are quite significant financing from Ukraine, and you can see the third paragraph how it used to work on normal territory. It's 50-50 basis for financing, and for the occupied territory, it's 50-20. So these industrial parks are aimed to facilitate restoration of
Yes.
economy, and if you recover these occupied territories, you have certain benefits. This slide just name a few main reconstruction funds which actually provide financing for different areas. I won't read it.
No,
You can
no.
see that Ukraine have many good partners, and we thank to all of these organizations, and of course citizens who pay taxes to fund these funds.
And these tenders are already open. So you see them.
Some
Yeah.
are open, some you can see like European Flagship Fund is
Yes.
expected in mid
In
2026.
mid-26, yeah.
Some
Great.
of them already work, so that's important participants of our Ukrainian ecosystem. And this is my final slide. It was very important for us to show this guy to you because now in Ukraine it's absolute hero. I don't know whether you know about him. It's Vlad Heroskevich. He was disqualified by Olympic administration due to his helmet on which the photos of died sportsmen in Ukraine shown, and Olympic Committee treated it as some breach of rules. But in Ukraine, he is absolute hero. He gets great prizes from private sectors, and President Zelensky met with him, and really it was a very big news for Ukraine. That's why I wanted to share this proud with you. And key message which I would share with you, that Ukraine it's not an issue. Ukraine is a solution actually, and Ukraine helps and may help even more to Ukraine to the civilized world to be better and safer. A few figures for your understanding of the scale, because we have different medias, but facts are that for the whole 2025, Russia captured only 0.8% of Ukrainian territories. While they are speaking that they are winning, you can see the figures, and they pay 1,020 soldiers for each day only in 2025. It's absolutely incredible figures for a normal human, but unfortunately this logic doesn't work in Russia. But I want you to understand it. Another, I quote Foreign Affairs, Ukraine's situation on the battlefield is difficult but not critical. Although Russia remains a dangerous adversary, a collapse of Ukraine's defense is unlikely, says Ukrainian Affairs few days ago. I would say personally that not unlikely, but impossible. We stay strong, and we will win. But we need the support of our partners and civilized part of the world. And actually, for businesses prepared to navigate the initial complexities in Ukraine, the long-term rewards of participating in one of the largest reconstruction efforts in history are profound. And of course, to lawyers and advisors to these businesses. So I invite you to share our optimism, and we will be happy to meet next year, but in different name for our event.
Very good. Volodymyr, I
Thank you very
share
much.
your optimism. I share your optimism. I'm always also looking at Oksana's face and see hope, at least. Yeah, I think we always had very frank discussions over the last years on this situation. We pray for your families, your friends, and those who will still have to suffer on that victorious way, as it seems. And again, I'm sharing this with you. Thank you very much. I think we are right at the end of our webinar. What I would very much like to do, and I will discuss this with the Jus Laboris, is I would like to get a little bit beyond and see lessons learned. I mean, we have discussions in our societies about resilience these days, and we start engaging with our population, with our workforce and our employee representatives about, forming more resilient societies in times of hybrid warfare. And this is something where we can learn an awful lot from your country and your society, and military secrets permitting. Maybe we will catch up sometimes later this year in this broader aspect where people can continue learning from your brave country and your immense efforts to defend our freedom. Thank you very much for this from my end, and God be with the Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your invitation, and thank you participants for their attention to Ukraine. It really matters, and it's important for us to feel that we are not alone.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for standing with us and supporting us all this time. Thank you.
On that note, Jus Laboris, final remarks.
So thank you, Oksana, Vladimir, and Burkhard. Should you have any questions, feel free to contact us via email, and we would be more than happy to assist you. As we come to the end of today's webinar, I just would like to remind you that we have a wide range of resources and insight on cross-border employment rules available on our website. So feel free to explore those materials. And before we close, I just would like to highlight our new AI-based platform, Delphius, that provides quick answer to employment law queries. If you are interested in learning more, I invite you to scan the QR code displayed on the slide, and we'll be really happy to organize a demo. Finally, I would like to sincerely thank you all for attending this very special webinar today, and a special thank, of course, to Oksana and Vladimir for their time in this very difficult time. And thank you for moderating, Burkhard. So with that, we conclude today's webinar. Thank you once again, and we wish you a very good rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks. See you soon. Bye-bye.